Welcome everyone to our REIA Now update. Appreciate everybody joining in, taking a few minutes here. We're looking forward to an exciting little opportunity here. So I want to thank first of all, I want to thank you. We do want to thank our sponsor. Appreciate your time here, and we appreciate our sponsor, Home Depot Pro, and the discounts and benefits that come through Home Depot Pro. So I encourage you to make sure you've got all of your credit cards on file to make sure you're getting every single piece of that benefit. So with that, thank you, Home Depot. And I want to talk a little bit today about our disclaimer first. We are not giving legal advice. Even when we talk about politics, we're not giving legal advice. We're not talking about even policy. We're not talking legal advice. We are also not talking about financial advice. Please talk to your own attorneys, your own financial advisors, get that yourself, make sure it's actually fitting and appropriate for you. Having said that, we do have some exciting things coming up. I do want to mention a little more about National REIA. So we are here to promote, protect, and educate. We have been serving housing providers, and Lori, we got to update that. It's almost 40 years now. So over 35 years, it's one of those like you stay at 29 for a while, right? One of the things, if you are an investor and would like to get involved, please make sure you go to the section on our website, nationalrea.org, find a local REIA, and you can find out how to get involved with your local real estate investor association. It's important to build a team, and there is nothing like a local REIA to build a team and provide excellent information on what's going on in your community. Today, we have a couple of things going on. I'm going to give a little bit of an update. My name is Charles Tassell. I'm the COO and VP of Legislative Affairs. And then Brad is going to take over, and usually he's behind the scenes putting all the documents up there and providing us all kinds of insight. But today, Brad is going to give a little bit of information and do a little interview with Michael and Maby Johnston, and we look forward to that. So with that, let's jump into some legislative things here real quickly. I'm not going to recap all of the campaign issues, all of the elections. People are, the last thing we want to do is I can click a button and push an ad to come up. Wouldn't that be great for everyone? Everybody start twitching. I think that was one of the happiest moments. Most people were coming in to vote and said, yes, no more ads. I'm so glad to be done with ads. But the amount of money that was spent is absolutely tremendous this year. And again, each year has been eclipsing the others, but we actually had some high points in like 22. And then we dropped off for a little while with 23. This year has come back and really surpassed even, and I'll give you an example, one local state where a Senate race was $45 million in 2018. That was the last time those senators ran, was over $500 million this time. That's more than just inflation, that's control of the Senate. And that's a big issue. So those issues are moving forward. It looks like the Republicans have pulled a trifecta. So that's going to be interesting. And what that also means, though, is we're going to come into an interesting period of time here called a lame duck. Lame duck means, these are people who are mostly on their way out. But what they are going to do is actually have an opportunity to pass legislation. Now, gridlock has been in place for the last year plus. So I don't expect there to be a huge amount of legislation moving at the federal level. What I do expect, though, is some very serious and hopefully interesting dialogue on the issue of budgets and continuing resolutions. The continuing resolution for our current budget, again, we haven't had a budget passed by our legislators in over a dozen years. So maybe we should make their actual paycheck dependent upon actually doing their job, but that would probably never get passed either. So December 20th, if we don't have a new bill passed or a continuing resolution passed, then we're going to be in a situation where we either don't pay our bills, which usually we go ahead and pass something, but the question will be is how long does this continuing resolution go for? Does it go like they did last time in September through the almost end of December? Are they going to, from a Democrat perspective, kick it to January 2nd, make the Republicans come in and turn around immediately and address it? Or do they give 2-3 months time so that there's time for actual diligence and due diligence on the process? That is going to be one of the hotly contested issues that occur. So get your popcorn ready for as we go into December. Hopefully things get resolved a little more amicably. But from what I've seen over the past 6 months to a year, I wouldn't count on it at this point. So we'll see where this goes, but we definitely need to get a budget continuing resolution moved forward at this point so that there's at least time to work on an actual budget. So with that, I do want to mention a couple of things in areas where people, and remember this, folks, politics is about like a pendulum swinging. Okay. Somebody made the comment, they said, oh, I'm in Ohio right now. So they said, Ohio has swung. There's Republicans have a sweep across the state. They've got the Supreme Court. I'm like, yeah, now's the time to start looking at the Democrats, because now the Republicans are going to screw up. They will get soft, fat, and lazy. And that will give room for the Democrats to start moving in. I suggest that you've already seen that in California, where the Democrats had run everything for so long, get soft, fat, and lazy, and then Republicans start to make inroads. That pendulum swings back and forth. So this is a good time when you've got folks that you start seeing that, wow, they're on the outs right now. They're in a minority community. Maybe I need to reach out to them. This is a good time to build those relationships, because there's a good likelihood that when that pendulum swings back, you'll have relationships with those folks already in place. So I just put that out there as just kind of something to consider. And as you're building those relationships, let me just encourage you next year. I know we're all kind of in this, oh my word, I'm tired of elections, but a lot of local elections will occur next year. Now is the time where folks who are saying, you know, I'm a mayor, I'm a council member, I'm an alderman, I'm done. I'm getting out. I'm not going to run again. And somebody somewhere is going, no, you've got to run because we don't have anybody to come in behind you. Or if there is somebody, it's the one knucklehead that's sitting out there that screams every week. We don't want that person coming in. So they're looking for good people who have, you know, could physically, they have their own resources, fiscal resources to, you know, manage their own campaigns. They know how to manage their own budgets. They are good partakers in the community. They're stakeholders in the community. Now is the time to really get involved with that. So I just encourage you to think about that. If you haven't thought about running for office, think about it. Start getting involved. Now is the time right now to plan for next year. So with that said, I want to touch on, let's see, one other thing, which is, we talk about this in terms of a bridge building, but make sure you're showing up for those lame duck sessions, because if a bill has typically been heard by one committee, if it has been moved by one committee to the floor, when they come together for conference committee, which is typically the House and the Senate meeting together, anything in that spectrum of bills can move forward as a Christmas tree ornament on that Christmas tree bill. So bear that in mind. This is what you're potentially going to see. Now is the time to make sure you've got those relationships. If you've got a lobbyist at the state level, stay involved with them, track them. I've talked to a couple senators today, another representative, just saying, where are we at? What are we doing locally? Because do we need to be involved on this issue? They're like, no, this one's dead. This is off the table. These ones might actually move. Okay. So how do we make sure we stay in front of that? Because it's going to be a very condensed time frame. And especially with the holidays and Thanksgiving and then Christmas, everybody wants to go home and be done. Make sure you stay involved and keep your fingers on the pulse of it. This is where those relationships really pay off. So having said all that, let's take a deep breath and make sure we enjoy Thanksgiving. We have a country that votes and has ballots, not bullets. We want to keep that, and we need to celebrate that. So with that, I say happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and I'm going to turn it over to Brad.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brad Beckett. I'm with National REIA. And like Charles said, a lot of times I'm behind the scenes putting together the publications and all the fun stuff that we push out to do what I like to say to all the group leaders. And as my job is to help them look good and provide value to their membership. And one of the things that we put out that helps provide value to your membership is the Real Estate Journal, which we publish every quarter, trying to make it so it shows up here, every quarter. And in every issue, we feature a member or members from across the country in our member spotlight. And in the fall issue, we featured Mike and Maby Johnston from South Florida, who are on the call today. And we're just going to ask them a few questions and tell them to talk about their real estate journey. Mike and Maby, I believe you're there.
Yes.
Hey, Brad, how
Great.
are you?
There you go. There you go. I can see you. Cool, cool. Well, and I did pronounce your name right. It's Maby.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure you get that all the time. Right. Well, Mike and Maby live in South Florida, live there most of their lives. They currently reside in Boca Raton. You guys are empty nesters now, and you have grandkids, right? Right. You love to travel, and you're really right now. One of your main focuses is the mentorship program at the BPN REIA. And I'm not sure if Anisha's on the call or not, but one of the things I like to jump into is tell us about how you got started in real estate. Tell us where you're going, and tell us about your current mentoring and some of your other projects.
Well, we got started, I want to say probably 11 years ago, and we just had the idea of getting into real estate, and we were thinking about joining a mentor program. We had been to several REIAs around mostly Florida, and never really joined for any mentor program. But one thing that really resonated with me is not knowing how to do this business. We were told you're going to pay for your education one way or the other. And it stuck with me. And the one way or the other is either by making mistakes as you go along, which can be very expensive,
Right.
or pay for your education up front and learn what not to do and save yourself tens of thousands of dollars on the back end from making those mistakes. So with that said, we decided to join the mentor program with Anish here in South Florida, and that was probably 11 years ago. And we're now mentors within that program, and it's been good. It's been a great journey so far.
Now you got started actually with the boot camp program, right?
Yes.
Correct. Yes, we got started with that, and
At
then
the local REIA.
at the local REIA, yes.
Yeah. Now, how was that as you were as new real estate investors? How was that? That was a good jump start for you. That was a way to get your feet wet.
That was a great jump start, yes. And then networking with everybody there, you know, we all start from the same, so it was like a good group of people. First of all, to network and also to learn. You know, by everybody sharing their mistakes and why we're there was really great for everyone. Because, you know, we all need help one way or the other. Like Mike said, you pay for education one way or the other. So I mean, boot camp was great for us.
And right after you got started, if I remember correctly, you actually found out that you had a family member who was in a situation that needed help, and that was one way that you really were able to jump right in and help somebody. So tell us about that.
So interesting. It was my father. And he knew that, you know, that we kind of we'll find a way to do things, you know, we just don't settle for nothing, you know. So we're like, okay, let's see how we can work and work this with you. And we had just joined, so that helped us tremendously. And Anish and, you know, the group helped us every step of the way. So it was like a win-win. And it like started from there. So after helping him, we learned the process, and then we continued on.
After the 2 days, we shared with him that we had just went through this boot camp, and we had no idea what his personal financial situation was. But come to find out, you know, he was in a pre-foreclosure situation due to an injury, not being able to work in his roofing business anymore. And so he's like, oh, wow, maybe you can help us. And we're like, it was meant to be. So we were able to save him from the foreclosure process. He was able to walk away with $10,000 in his pocket at that time, as well as his dignity. And then we actually were able to find a buyer for the property, and it almost paid for our mentor program in the first transaction.
Oh, that's really great.
Yeah.
And another example you mentioned, there was someone you buy probate properties.
Sometimes, yes.
There was a young lady that you had mentioned that was in the process of with her property, and they were putting liens on her property or fines or something.
Yeah, so she had owned the property. Her father passed away. She owned the property for about 4 years. And for those 4 years, it just kept deteriorating and deteriorating. They kept putting all kinds of liens and notices on the door. And she's just a waitress. She didn't know what to do with this situation. And we had met her, and we told her we could help her out. So the first thing we did is, we reached out to the network that we've met through the REIA programs, and then also our own personal network of handyman and people that can go take care of these violations. And we didn't make any money from that. We just wanted to help her out. So we made sure that these handyman went and did whatever they had to do, cleared the violations. But the worst part about it was for these 4 years, she was paying an attorney, and the attorney did nothing for her. And when we finally got involved and got her permission to speak directly to the attorney said, "Oh, well, let me connect you with the probate attorney." I said, "Wait, you're not a probate attorney. What have you been doing and charging this lady for 4 years?" So we went from the time we got involved to the time that it got out of probate where she could actually sell the property was a 6-month process. But she'd been paying for 4 years to go through that other attorney that wasn't even the right appropriate attorney for her. So it pays to be educated. And our thought process is we're just in this to help people out. And sometimes we make a lot of money, and sometimes we don't make too much money. But at the end of the day, we know we're doing the right thing from our heart, and we can put our head on the pillow at the end of the night and say, "Hey, we helped somebody."
Well, that's certainly a great attitude to have in this business. That you're just not out there trying to rip people off or to make a quick buck. You're actually improving lives and helping families and helping find solutions.
Yes, for sure.
Now, do you guys have rental properties? What kind of investing do you do exactly?
So we have about 9 properties right now, about an hour and a half from where we live in Boca Raton. Those are all long-term, so annual. We got into those to buy and hold for the long-term game, so they gain in equity, and somebody's paying down our mortgage in the meantime. We've also had, we're super hosts with Airbnb.
Oh, wow.
It was good. We just sold our last Airbnb property. And the only reason for that, it just got very saturated, in our opinion, during COVID, especially where we're at in South Florida. If you have a prime location that's close to the beach, it could stay occupied year round. But in Florida, we're very seasonal. And when COVID hit, the rates were so low. Everybody came from states that were a lot more restricted and came to Florida and just bought up properties left and right. And so it became a little bit saturated. So unless you had a very, very unique property, now you're competing with 100 other properties in a 5-mile radius. So we found it was great in the winter months. Even if we had a mortgage and we're paying $3,000, we were bringing in $7,000. But during the summer, it would slow down and it would just be a break even. So we decided for us and our life path, it's best to just have our annual rentals at this point in time.
Yeah, that makes sense. You think you got out at a good time then when you?
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's 2020. When we sold the property, the good thing is we learned through the mentor program as well, and other people in this REIA organization, is that you make money when you buy the property. And when you hear that for the first time, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? But it does. I mean, you make money if you buy it at the right price and you have multiple exit strategies. So when we bought the property, it needed to be completely gutted and remodeled. So we did that. And it took us maybe 6 months. We could have sold the property for $650,000 because that was when the times were crazy and we were getting multiple offers. But we decided to keep it and rent it as Airbnb. Well, lo and behold, 2 years later, when we basically broke even with the Airbnb, we sold it for about $580,000. So we could have made a lot more money if we would just have fixed it and sold it at that time. But nobody has a crystal ball.
Right,
But
right.
the point of my story is either way, we still made $125,000 on that property when we did sell it. And the only reason was because we were able to buy it low enough to where any exit strategy would have worked for us. So.
Well, going back to the REIA and how you got started with boot camp, how important is it for people to join their local REIA and get involved and learn from folks?
I mean, it's so important because, when we have students that come to us and I just had this scenario happen this week. She was, one of my students was evaluating a property and she said, "Hey, here's what I think all the estimated costs and repairs were." And we were, $100,000 off. And then that student didn't take into account the cost of money for holding it for 6 months, the account of paying taxes for 6 months, paying real estate commission when you go sell it. So in the end, it was like $175,000 to $200,000 difference evaluation. And if she would have gone at it alone and just went and made that offer, she'd have found that out the hard way. So to me, it just makes more sense to pay for your education up front, learn from the people that have done it, because at the end of the day, those people aren't making money unless you're making money. So it's really, it goes hand in hand. Everybody's helping each other out.
Right. Well, we've really appreciated having you guys on today. Is there anything you'd like to add or share with our audience? We have folks from all across the country on here from different REIAs.
Well, we want to thank REIA for sure and Anish for all the guidance. Without you guys, we probably wouldn't be here, with all the knowledge that, everybody shares. So we're very grateful. And whoever can join a REIA, it's well worth it. It's better than spending, like Michael says, spend money that you could have saved while you just join a REIA or, with this program.
Yeah, and I'll just share one more thing. Listen, a lot of these people that are on this call have been around for a while, and they probably know a lot more than we do. So you're like, I don't need to join a REIA. I already have the experience. In that case, be the mentor, right? Use your knowledge. It was just stated how the country's going in a different direction. There's a lot of people that are getting older, and a lot of these younger generations don't have the knowledge that some of us do that are on this call. So be the mentor, be the person that teaches somebody a little something, and then they go out and find the property, and you can help work that deal together. Because that's one of the things that we do. You find the property, we'll help you work out all the details. And then we'll partner with you on it. If you don't have the funds up front, we'll fund you the money, and then we'll split the deal 50-50 on the back end. And we've learned that through Anish. So it goes both ways. If you're new, join a REIA. If you got the experience, just teach somebody, even if it's a one-on-one situation.
We've heard nothing but good things about Anish and his group down there. I can't say he's a great guy.
Sure.
Yeah, we all work together. I mean, we've experienced even in other industries where everybody's secretive. Like there's so much wealth to go around, and the more we partner up together, even if we're in different states, it's beneficial to all of us.
Right, and having the right attitude also. It's not just about you, it's about everybody. It's about us, about helping people. It's about improving neighborhoods one home at a time.
Yeah, I mean, the old saying is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, do it together.
That's great advice. Well,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, does anyone have any questions for Maby and Mike? If you do, throw them in the comments box. And if not, I'm going to turn it back over to Charles or Lori. We may have another guest coming on today, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, I'm going to mention two other things real quick. I want to make sure I got over to you in a timely fashion, but a new issue that we're seeing on the legislative front real quick is just something called sealing of records. It's kind of been this panacea out there for folks on the activist side for quite a while. We're actually seeing traction occur across the board, and part of that is because of the White House Renters Bill of Rights that occurred. So that is actually starting to spread around a little more. We're seeing judges being more willing to actually support the sealing of records, and specifically not just criminal records, but civil records, specifically eviction records. So make sure you're staying in touch with your local judges and letting them know that it's absolutely essential. And part of this I would encourage is make sure you're participating with local community agent groups who are typically, they want to know that you know who's moving into those places because that's their neighbors. And when you partner with them, that's a strength that you have when you're coming before a legislature. It's not just, hey, I want to get into people's business. I need to know who these people are before I let them in to become neighbors of your constituents. And that makes a much stronger argument for them. The other one, I'm going to mention this, there's not a delicate way to jump into it. So I use the term pig butchering. That's the term that they use for it. As we come back into the holiday season, this is a lonely time for some people, and they may be open and susceptible to romance scams. And while romance scams we typically think of in terms of, hey, they shook them out of a few $1,000s or something like that. In these situations, the scammer often is actually a trafficked person themselves, who, if they don't get people in on the scam, so they're motivated, there's consequences for them as well. So they're trying their best to scam somebody to send whatever they have. And right now we're seeing about $4 billion a year coming out of the US And that's people's, retirement funds, savings, and in some cases, their homes that they are selling to put into whatever investment scam that's out there. And that's all the more reason why we, as real estate investors, need to make sure that we're involved and make sure that we are aware and looking at folks saying, hey, is that something you really understand? Is that something you're investing in? And there may be a vested interest in this because there's kind of a romantic or emotional entanglement that they're being hooked in on. So make sure you're, having conversations with the folks. And if somebody who is isolated, maybe a little more lonely, suddenly starts to do, hey, I'm doing some investing in crypto or something, I'm sending some funds overseas, that should be a red flag. Just be careful with that kind of situation right now. As we come in, like I said, into the holidays, it's being raised in awareness for everyone in the US that we are definitely targets and they are ramping up their efforts on that. So just caution, but please, as fellow investors, as maybe Michael mentioned, we got to look out for our fellow investors in our community. We got to move through this and make sure they're looking to us as investors and as those who are involved. So make sure you're reaching out, especially during the holiday season, running into folks and family members. You never know who's actually involved in these kind of things. So just heads up for everybody on that. And thank you, Brad, for putting that up. Real estate investing today. If you're not checking real estate investing today, you are missing out. There's always good intel up there. And if you see something, please let us know. With that, I think we have everything pretty much wrapped up here. We appreciate Brad, Michael, Maby. Thank you guys for coming in today. And thank you all investors for being out there and doing what you're doing. Go get them. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.